Last night, a rocket blew up. Not metaphorically, not in a simulation. Jeff Bezos' New Glenn, the rocket that was supposed to challenge SpaceX for dominance of the entire commercial space industry, exploded on the launch pad at Cape Canaveral at approximately 9 p.m. Eastern last night. A massive fireball, homes shaking miles away. The sky turned orange. And as the smoke clears this morning, there are stocks you need to know about before that bell rings today. I'm Tony. And before I get into any of this is not financial advice. Do your own research. Nothing here should be taken as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Got it? Good. Let's go. Here's what went down, and context matters here because this is not Blue Origin's first setback in 2026. Back in April, Blue Origin flew the New Glenn rocket for the third time. The booster reflew and actually landed successfully. That was impressive. But the upper stage had a cryogenic failure. They lost the satellite. A total mission failure. So they grounded the rocket. Fixed things. And last night, they were doing what's called a static fire test. That's where you ignite the engines on the ground to verify everything is working before you actually launch. They never made it. At approximately 9 p.m. Eastern, the New Glenn exploded. A full vehicle loss at Launch Complex 36 at Cape Canaveral. The pad is damaged. The investigation is underway. And Jeff Bezos posted on X. Quote, very rough day, but we'll rebuild whatever needs rebuilding and get back to flying. End quote. Here are the numbers that make this significant. Blue Origin had 24 Amazon satellite launches contracted for this year. Those are all now at risk. They had planned up to 12 New Glenn launches in 2026. Those are done. And importantly, Amazon confirmed 0 LEO satellites were on board at the time of the explosion. So the loss is the rocket and the pad, not the payload. But make no mistake, this is a massive setback, and the market is going to react. Now let's talk about what this means for the stocks. I'm going to give you 3 potential winners and 3 to watch cautiously. And again, not financial advice, do your own research. Winners. First, Rocket Lab, ticker RKLB. This is the most direct beneficiary of last night's news. Rocket Lab closed today at $148. It dipped slightly in after hours to around $146. Watch where it opens this morning. But here's the thesis. With New Glenn grounded, Rocket Lab is now the only credible American alternative to SpaceX for launch services. They have a $2.2 billion backlog. They just won a $90 million Space Force contract. And they have the Neutron rocket coming later this year. Watch the open. Second, Intuitive Machines, ticker LUNR. This one was already on a tear today, up 8% before the explosion even happened, on a separate $180 million NASA contract. Now add this. Blue Origin holds key Artemis program contracts. If Blue Origin's timeline slips, NASA's spending flows elsewhere. And Intuitive Machines is already NASA's primary lunar services contractor. It closed around $43. Watch for continuation. Third, Planet Labs, ticker PL. This is an Earth observation play. Not directly tied to launch services, but the broader government space spending thesis just got stronger after last night's news. Planet Labs has been stacking government contracts, NRO, NASA, a €240 million German government deal. It closed around $50 and was flat in after-hours trading. A slower mover, but worth watching. Now, the ones to watch carefully, AST Space Mobile, ticker ASTS. This one is interesting and complicated. AST hit an all-time high today of $133, but it's now pulling back about 3% in after-hours to around $125. Why? Because AST has a partial dependency on Blue Origin for satellite launches. They already took a hit in April when Blue Origin failed to deploy their Bluebird 7 satellite properly. A second setback with their launch partner is not good. That said, AST also has SpaceX as a fallback launch provider. If the dip overcorrects at open tomorrow, that could be a setup. Watch carefully. Amazon, ticker AMZN. This is the quiet casualty of last night. 24 launches contracted through Blue Origin for the LEO satellite constellation. That's their Starlink competitor, are now delayed indefinitely. Amazon won't crater over this, it's too diversified. But the strategic picture just shifted. Starlink just bought time against its only real competitor. And Lockheed Martin, ticker LMT. Lockheed is part of what's called the Blue Origin National Team, a consortium working on NASA's Artemis lunar missions. Lockheed closed up 1.3% today at $538. If Blue Origin's Artemis role gets disrupted, some contracts could shift. Not a crisis for Lockheed, but worth tracking. Now zoom out, because this isn't just a rocket story, this is a power shift story. SpaceX now has no real competition in the US heavy lift market. Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy are the only games in town for the foreseeable future. Every commercial launch contract, every government payload, every satellite deployment that was destined for Blue Origin, it now goes to SpaceX. That's not an opinion, that's just the math. And here's the kicker. SpaceX filed its S-1 in April. Analysts are targeting a June listing at a valuation of approximately $1.75 trillion. Last night just handed them the most powerful IPO narrative imaginable. Their only real competitor just blew up. Literally. For Amazon's Project Leo, which they renamed from Project Kuiper, this is a strategic disaster. They were betting on Blue Origin as a lower-cost captive launch provider to build out their own satellite constellation to compete with Starlink. That plan is now in pieces. They'll be scrambling to rebook launches on SpaceX, which is Elon Musk's company, to compete with Elon Musk's Starlink. That's a painful position to be in. And then there's NASA's Artemis program, the U.S. effort to return humans to the moon. Blue Origin holds key contracts, including the Human Landing System and the Lunar Terrain Vehicle. This setback doesn't kill Artemis, but it adds delays and uncertainty to a program that's already years behind schedule. The space race just got a lot more interesting and a lot more concentrated around one company. So here's your bottom line going into tomorrow morning. 3 stocks to have on your radar when that bell rings. Rocket Lab, RKLB. Watch pre-market. It's already near its all-time high. If it gets a pop-off last night's news at open, that's market confirmation of the thesis. If it dips, depending on the size, that could be an opportunity window. AST Space Mobile, ASTS, is your most speculative play. It's pulling back about 3% in after hours on Blue Origin dependency concerns. If that dip runs too deep and overcorrects at open, traders will notice. And Intuitive Machines, LUNR, was already running before this news dropped. Blue Origin's chaos means more NASA money flowing to the one company that's already proven it can land on the moon. Remember, every one of these carries real risk. Space is hard. Rockets explode. Timelines slip. Position sizing matters. Do your research. I want to close this morning with something that felt right, given what happened. Jeremiah 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Even rockets fall. Jeff Bezos will rebuild. The space race will continue and the market will find its footing. Stay the course. I'm Tony. If this episode gave you value, hit subscribe, drop a comment, and share it with someone who needs to see this before the market opens. God bless you.